You're tuned in to another episode of The Coaching Lounge with your host, Rebecca Gordon, lead life coach at satellitelifecoaching.com. Listen to interviews with creative thinkers, motivational speakers, models of success, and key people of influence. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now.
Hi and welcome to another edition of The Coaching Lounge. And it has been a while because I have been on a sabbatical. And today's show is quite apt for me because I've been going through the process of self-nurturing, self-sustenance and self-restoration, and just taking some time out to enjoy the blessings of every day that life brings. So I'm very pleased to have with me in the Coaching Lounge the Rebel Rev, Monica Douglas-Clark, who's going to talk to us today about what a nurturing journey is and how we can be involved and participate in such a process, and to talk about self-healing and spiritual practices and those sort of things. So we are going to discuss a lot in the topic today. But first of all, let me tell you something about Monica Douglas-Clark. Monica is known as Rebel Rev, and she helps people during times of uncertainty, growth or transition to feel more peace, love, joy and abundance in their lives. Not only that, she provides support to clients through transformational guidance, spiritual counselling, training and bespoke ceremony. Now, Monica is known as a Rebel Reverend, and don't worry, we're going to find out exactly what that is. So she's a Rebel Reverend and a revolutionary business leader. Monica is also a qualified and ordained interfaith minister, nurturing yoga teacher, trainer, and transformational guide who delivers training courses online and in person. She offers one-to-one guidance, events and retreats globally and at her retreat space in Barbados. And we are going to cover a lot of Monica's work in the call today. So we just need to get into this interview because there actually is a lot for us to discuss, a lot that will help you to live your life fully, purposefully, and to actually get a good adjustment with your work and your life balance. So, Monica Douglas-Clark, welcome to the Coaching Lounge.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Sun's shining, and I've actually just shaved all my head off, so I'm feeling the warmth on my scalp at the moment, and it's marvellous.
Brilliant. Okay. I mean, the sun is healing, great healing energy, isn't it?
You can't beat it. Getting out in the elements. Absolutely.
Yes. Great. Okay. So, Monica, let's just get straight into the interview. Now, I've introduced you as a Rebel Rev. Tell me about that, please. What is a Rebel Rev?
Okay, so a Rebel Rev is a name that has come to me, actually. I'm an ordained interfaith minister, which means that I've been trained to provide ceremonies and spiritual counselling for people of all faiths and none. And that's by the One Spirit Interfaith Foundation. And as part of my training, it's been a real awakening and opening to those people that may have an established faith, but sometimes fall between the gaps of that faith, or people that don't and feel a bit disconnected from their spirituality. So I've learned to recognise those people, and it's in essence like they have a little rebellious soul. There's part of them that's saying, yeah, this bit suits me, this feels really good, and actually this bit really somehow upsets me, somehow doesn't sit quite right with me. How do I deal with that? So And I know that for myself because I used to be quite rebellious in my past. So As a Rebel Reverend, I sit and listen and work with people who are actually starting to listen to their rebellious soul and think, actually, how can I make peace with that part of myself so that I can feel whole, so that I can feel comfortable, connected with my true spirituality in the way that feels as though I'm being able to be who I am in the world.
I think that's beautiful, because faith is a personal thing, and sometimes there can be a little bit of a internal tussle. And what's important for people is what you do, especially where faith is concerned, to have someone confidential, who's there to listen and just to help someone offload. And I think that's a very niche, unique and beautiful thing. So, I'm sure, people have benefited very, very well from that.
Yeah.
So thanks for explaining that. And I'm actually interested, Monica, in your life before now, before you got into your ministry, before you've been doing the nurturing journey. Tell me about you before now and what led you to here, what's brought you to this present experience.
Yeah, so, like many people, I've had quite a varied and eclectic life. I was brought up in Britain by Caribbean parents and part of a quite large family of 5. And, I had a real sense of being quite an expansive and deeply connected spiritual young person from very small. And I remember talking about, how I felt really deeply connected with the people around me, the earth, the nature, but and dancing and freedom. And at some point, I started to receive messages from the environment around me, my family, school, society around, where I was like, actually, there's more to this than actually being deeply connected. And I thought, well, the messages that I was getting from around me was, no, you have to go for this career, you need to make sure you do this stuff at school. Actually, it's, you can't trust people, all these things around me that were contrary to actually how I felt inside. So I felt driven. I took on this mantle of society. I was very good at school. I went for a top, university. I travelled. I did lots of things with the intention of having a high-powered corporate job or working in international development politics or whatever it was all about striving for something that was not about my connection with myself and others.
Right, yeah.
And I played that game, and I was very successful at it on an external level. But there was always something inside me that said, actually, there's more to life than this. There's more to my soul and my purpose than this external striving for more and more stuff. There's more to who I am than the job title, than the possessions. And, there were signs internally for me that told me that there was more to it, that there was something that was out of balance. So, I had sort of some health problems. I was overweight. I was, I suffered like many people from just sort of a nagging sense of actually unfulfillment is the right word.
Right, okay.
So over many years actually, and I suppose I had that feeling when I was quite young, so in my 20s, and I started to look back and say, is there another way of looking at the world, and have I been shown other ways? And I looked back at, actually, my sister had been a yoga teacher, or actually not a yoga teacher, yoga practitioner, and I remember, and she was, when she was 11 years older than me, and she was into eating really healthy foods, and she was into nature and various things. And I remember looking at her when I was very little and thinking, wow, there's something in what she's doing right now. She came off that track, actually, interestingly, but she planted a very important seed for me.
Right. Right. Okay. I mean, it's great that you had someone there to see an alternative life experience, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And actually, when I started to look back, I noticed that there were various people in my life that had provided alternative ways of looking at the world. Mm-hmm. You know, even though my mum and my father, they brought me up in a traditional way in one sense, but also they taught me a deep spirituality. My mum's very connected in her Christian faith. My father's also, he has his own way of expressing his spirituality. So he was a questioner. So I had both sides. I had somebody who was deeply devout, somebody who was a deep questioner.
That's good. That's great. Yeah.
And
okay. So you actually, I mean, please correct me, but just looking at what I know about you and reading your bio, etc., you actually went through the process of formalizing what you recognised you were about.
Absolutely. So through over 20 years of study of personal development, I started to, reflect on all that I'd been given, so the stuff that I thought had taken me away from who I was, and also the aspects of experience in life that had pointed me to who I really was, and realised that they were all pointing at the same thing. So where I'd come and had experiences of illness, of maybe social trauma, difficulty with people or myself, anything that had happened in my life, looking at it retrospectively, had called me to go inside, to question who I was, and to seek for a deeper sense of support. So that's what brought me to training.
Thank you very much for giving that background, because it's an excellent, just hearing you, and it's the first time we've had this conversation, it sounds like a very good insight into how to be on purpose. You know, you really do have to be honest and look into yourself and reflect and think, actually, is this really what I want? Or is this the way I want my life to be? And then do the work to make the changes. So that's a prime example of that. Thank you, Monica.
Pleasure.
And you've actually touched on the next question. You must be psychic, Monica.
Got special powers, you know, Rebecca.
Yes, I can tell. But you've touched on it, but I do want us to explore it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And just to preempt this question. You know, I've experienced, looking back in my life, times when I was so busy, even when in the early days of my business, really frantically trying to get this thing to work and, you know, being everything to everyone and doing everything. And we can get so caught up in that sort of existence that we don't actually recognize messages that indicate to us actually we need to stop.
Yeah.
So the question is, and please go a bit deeper into what you started to say, what are some external and internal symptoms that tell someone they're in need of self-restoration?
Absolutely. At its most simplest, for me, a really deep signal is sleep and not being able to sleep properly. It's a really, you know, our body can do whatever it needs to do to help us stay in balance and harmony and check. But if we don't give ourselves or enable ourselves to rest and sleep, it's one of the first indicators for me that something's not right.
Okay.
I would also say, from my own experiences, physical illness. So recurrent colds can, you know, even at a top level, can be a symptom. But, you know, obviously if you're getting more chronic illnesses, then it's like a really important signal to the body that it needs to be looked after. So for me, the body is the foundation. We then work into the heart, our emotions. Then we look at the mind and, you know, how we are dealing with our psyche and our thoughts. And then in the biggest, widest sense, our soul and how connected we are with our individual soul and how that connects with the wider spirit.
Right.
So if we're looking at symptoms, body first, how healthy, how well are we? And it's always the foundation, because no matter what we're doing in terms of personal development and psychological study or reading or being around people, if our body isn't functioning as well as it could, we're not going to be able to progress on our journey in any with any sense of energy or vibrancy. With our heart, I would say a deep symptom is our ability to cope with stressful situations. There will always be stress. We cannot eliminate it. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to get rid of stress in my life. It's like, actually, that's not the point. There will always be stressors. Life is about change. It's about things coming and going, people coming and going, actions and activities, and some things that are seemingly terrible happening in our lives, some things that are seemingly, elating and joyful in our lives. But the nature of life is that it will be a stressor on us. And when we look at symptoms that are recognizing that something's not working in the heart well, is how do we cope with the emotions that we feel? How do we cope with unexpected events that happen in our life? How can we go through the process of creating space for us to grieve in a way that works for us, for something that has been before that is no longer here in our present? Mm-hmm. In our mind, again, it's like, what are our thoughts? Have we the ability to come back to gratitude as a core practice for whatever comes to us? Have we the ability to see things clearly as they are, or are we projecting all sorts of fantasies onto others and ourselves?
It does take quite a bit of self-awareness, doesn't it, to be able to identify some of these indicators that you're mentioning here?
Completely. So, I think that's why people for me, I know that's why I exist in the world, because we need people who have walked that path of self-exploration and come out of the other side, who are able to be effective mirrors for us to see what's going on, to feel what's actually we're feeling, because a lot of us divorce ourselves from our true feelings.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the beauty of working with a coach, a counsellor, a therapist, because they help you to sit in that space where you can be aware of what's actually happening with your body, be aware of what's happening with your emotions and your feelings, be aware of actually your thought patterns, be aware, with my work particularly, of how connected you feel at a level of soul to your idea, your connection with the greater spirit in whatever way, shape or form that manifests for you.
Okay. And then once someone does the work and comes to that recognition and actually is honest with themselves to say, something has to change here. What does it mean to actually start the process of nurturing oneself? Yeah. What does that mean?
Okay. So the first part in the process of transformational guidance that I give to people is actually looking at creating a nurture plan for themselves. So listening in. So a process of deep listening to what their body, their heart, their mind and their soul needs. So there's a really important part to this. It's our true needs as an individual, not what we've been told, not what we've learned from others, but a deep, deep, deep listening. Once we have listened, then we can provide what we need to ourselves. And from that place, then we can provide what we need to others. So a very base level, the body. So a lot of people are following other people's blueprints for the food they eat, the water or the fluids that they drink. They may be following a diet. They may be following a habit in terms of how they eat, which has been given to them by their family, but it actually doesn't suit their body. So, I have a really wonderful online program called the 7-Day Nurturing Journey. And in that, the first thing is to start to become aware of actually just how does my body feel right now, and how connected am I to the earth, the environment that I'm in. So when's the last time you took off your shoes and your socks and you just felt your bare feet on the grass?
Yeah. So that leads us on to maintaining some discipline to ensure that self-nurturing practices are a routine part of your life, just as you get up and brush your teeth. You do something. So for the listeners, what is one good habit that someone can do every day, something practical?
Okay, so something practical that people can do is, I would say the most simplest practice that you can do is to drink 1 glass of water a day, where you're consciously using that glass of water to nourish and cleanse your body. So a lot of people struggle with, I've got to drink 2 litres. What does that mean? So let me have 1 glass of water where before I drink it, I think I am taking the time to drink this glass of water in a way that tells my body that I want to look after it. So anything, if there was one of my practices is to think of a word, and if there was something that your body was saying that it wanted right now, so it could be abundance. So people are generally in our current climate quite stressed out about finances and wealth, yeah? Mm-hmm. So how about if when you were drinking that glass of water that's come out of the tap, so you haven't paid for it, or Yeah. How about before you drank it, you just infused that water with abundance? So every mouthful you took of that glass of water, you were giving your body, your heart, your mind, your soul abundance.
That's lovely. It sounds like a personal ritual.
Yeah.
And it sounds very much like conscious drinking.
Yeah.
So you're not just drinking to quench your thirst. You're drinking and you're actually sensing it, actually carrying out this process internally, which manifests externally. Yeah. And I think that's very simple, very practical, and something that every listener tuning in right now can start to do straight away. So thank you so much for that, Monica. What we are going to do is have a very quick break. And we are going to return on the other side of the short advert with the Rebel Rev, Monica Douglas Clark, who's going to talk to us about self-compassion and about balancing the pressures of work and life, and also about her nurturing journey. We will be back in a short moment.
We support your transformation. Stay tuned for more engaging discussion after this short break.
Usually, we struggle through life alone, with outdated beliefs and self-sabotaging actions that bring the same results. How different would it be if you had a personal success coach who helped you make the shift and create a plan for happiness? You will fearlessly align your values, achieve important goals, and reframe your perspective when you have coaching with me. Email Rebecca at info@satellitelifecoaching.com. Book your free discovery session and change your life.
I'm Rebecca Gordon and I'm your host in the Coaching Lounge. I'm joined by the Rebel Rev, Monica Douglas Clark. We're having a great conversation here, a great conversation on transformation, on self-nurturing and self-restoration. And Monica has given us a very great tip about conscious awareness of how you're actually receiving things, receiving messages. And one tip she's giving us is to conscious drink, which is to, when you're drinking water, just imagine that and sense that actually healing and providing what you need, not just to quench your thirst, but as a ritual to support other parts of your life. What I'd like to do, you've spoken about conscious awareness. What I'd like you to do is, again, very practically, I know people who say that they're very busy. Okay, they've got lots to do. They may be working full-time or part-time. They may be managing a business, or they might be heavily involved in the church or their local community, as well as raising a family. How can, for example, a busy mom who's doing all of that, how can she balance the pressure of a working life and family? What's your message?
So my message is, we talked a bit earlier in the interview about conscious rituals or rituals that can help us just cope with the demands of modern life. So my message is, yes, you probably are very busy, and there's no denying that. We have a lot of things to do. If you have to throw your kids from one place to another and you've got a full-time job, it's a lot. So the first thing is actually have a really deep look at what is going on and whether there's anything that you can eliminate. So often we're so overwhelmed with what we have to do. Is there actually anything that's on our plate that doesn't need to be on it? First step. If we recognise that it's full and there's nothing that can actually drop right now, it's putting little rituals into the day that enable you to have a little breathing space. So I chose the phrase breathing space for a reason, because we don't have to control our breath. It's happening all the time. It happens unconsciously. But when we're aware of it, and when we bring our awareness to our breath, it can help calm us down. It can help allow us to have a few moments of peace in an otherwise hectic world. And a ritual that you can do, a very practical one, is, if you're driving around and you get to a red stoplight, use it as an opportunity to have a breathing space. Because there's nothing you can do. You can't go past the red stoplight. So actually use it as an opportunity. So take a few moments just to focus on your breath. There's nothing for you to do with it other than to see it and notice that actually life is going on without your control in that moment.
Yeah, that's good, because it is about sometimes relinquishing control and just relaxing. Yeah, and that's sometimes a struggle, really, isn't it? We like to know what's going on, we like to know what's going next, but sometimes you just have to sit and be, really, don't you?
Absolutely, and I mean that's for me the beauty of the nurture plan, because it's actually, what do I need to do as a minimum in order to function, in order to be who I am. And the point for me is, it's not taking on loads of new stuff. Often when you do a nurture plan, what it does is it takes a whole heap of burden off what you thought you needed.
Okay, and you've mentioned there the nurture plan, and what we are going to do is talk a bit more deeply about your specific concept of the nurturing journey, because I know that you are a woman who has so many strings to her bow, and I wanted to just talk to you about some other things and then focus on the retreat and the nurturing plan. Is that okay to do?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great, okay. So I'm loving the interview, Monica, by the way. I'm really pleased that you're my guest today, the first guest back after my sabbatical.
Fantastic.
I'm going to talk to you about something that, again, can be a struggle, perhaps, whether we consciously are aware of it or not. But we've talked about spiritual practices. People are very much connected with faith. They can be, yes. In spiritual practices, we're taught about being compassionate to others.
Yes.
What is the importance of self-compassion? Where does this fit in our lives, and what does it look like?
We cannot give to anybody else what we cannot give to ourselves. We may think we are, but essentially, unless we can develop a sense of deep compassion for ourselves and understanding of our core needs, then we're unable to effectively give that to anyone else. For me, what that looks like is to recognize all aspects of ourselves, those parts that we like and those parts that we don't, and to find a way to make peace with our fullness, our wholeness. When we have that for ourselves, then we're more likely to be able to have that for others. So there'll be parts of other people that flag up issues for us, either in their behaviour, in the way they operate in the world, in their interactions with us. How can we be compassionate with? So if I've got a part of me that's really intolerant of the fact that I get angry when somebody cuts me up on the road, yeah,
Yeah.
then how can I be compassionate towards somebody else who gets angry?
Yeah.
When somebody else does something to them, if I'm like that with myself.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And it, what it is a recognition that, you know what, I sometimes get angry like that. I wonder what's going on for that other person that's made them do that, act in that way in that moment. Because often we label them as a bad person. We label ourselves as a bad person. Well, actually, we may have behaviours that aren't functional, that are dysfunctional. But actually, when you go deep down to our soul level, it's neither good nor bad. It is.
So I think you're talking about being kind to yourself. Yeah, and just sitting in that space to actually not beat yourself up or others.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something about it as well, because I've been working with this idea of fierce compassion.
Right, okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so for me, people often think that being compassionate means being kind of a bit wet and a pushover and somehow being unrealistic about the world. You know, like a lack of recognition that people do really horrible things. It's not that. It's not that at all. It's a recognition that we are all of that, and that anything that happens in the world, you know, if we're humans on this planet, each and every individual one of us has all of the potential for anything. It's all the greatest good and the greatest bad.
True.
And when we sit in that place, we're less quick to judge another. We're less quick to, you know, as they say, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So how many of us are aware of the glass house that we're in?
Yes, true.
So the fierceness for me in our compassion is our ability to call something out in ourselves and another without the judgment, without the without the good or badness. It's just that actually there's something about this that doesn't sit right.
Yes. I think that's really healthy to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, in one respect, it's acknowledging that, you know, you have the right to let someone know where something doesn't sit right with you, as you say.
Yeah.
And it's also giving the other person the opportunity to raise some awareness of that and to give them a chance to self-correct or to, you know, do something about it, because they may actually be oblivious.
Yeah, and the point for me is that you own your response to it. If I own the fact that this makes me feel, I feel really sad about this. So it's my sadness. It's not what they've done to me. It's my sadness. And when it's my sadness, I can do something about it. When it's my anger, I feel really angry about this. And the reason why I feel angry about this is this. Then, you know, somebody can't deny my feeling, but I'm not giving them the responsibility for my feeling.
Right, absolutely. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And certainly when people work with you on the nurturing journey and attend one of your retreats, and we'll give full information about that after the break, the next break, then, they'll be able to tap into all of this that you support people with. Okay, but I'm actually just going to go through very quickly a self-compassion exercise that I am aware of, and it's by Dr. Kristin Neff, and I'll put her website on the links relating to the show. But her exercise, the title is, How Would You Treat a Friend? So this is a coaching tool. Please get some pen and paper and just take some notes. And I'll put the link to her website that you can actually look fully at this after the show. But she says, first of all, think about times when a close friend feels really bad about him or herself, or is really struggling in some way. How would you respond to your friend in this situation, especially when you're at your best? And she asks you to write down what you typically do, what you typically say, note the tone and in which you typically talk to your friends. Then she says, now think about times when you feel bad about yourself or are struggling. How do you typically respond to yourself in these situations? And again, she asks you to write down what you typically do, what you typically say, and note the tone in which you talk to yourself. And then she asks you to self-reflect, which is what you've been sharing with us, Monica, the importance of self-reflection. She asks the question, did you notice a difference? If so, ask yourself why. What factors or fears come into play that lead you to treat yourself and others so differently? And then she says, please write down how you think things might change if you responded to yourself in the same way you typically respond to a close friend when you're suffering. Okay, so why not treat yourself like a good friend and see what happens?
Lovely.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely lovely.
Okay, great. So we're actually approaching the third segment of the show. I'm actually going to take a break at this moment so the listeners can absorb what we've discussed regarding self-compassion. And after this break, Monica, we're going to return and talk about the energy cycle and your work in ministry and your retreat space. Okay, so please stay with us and we will continue our conversation in the coaching lounge with Rebel Rev Monica Douglas Clark after this short break.
You're tuned in to the Coaching Lounge podcast with Rebecca Gordon. Find out more about us by visiting satellitelifecoaching.com.
Think big for a moment. If you could create your best life, how would this look? What if, in just 30 minutes, you had a plan of action to get closer to your dream? Make the impossible possible and claim your free session today. Visit www.satellitelifecoaching.com now.
I'm Rebecca Gordon, your host in the Coaching Lounge and also the lead coach at satellitelifecoaching.com. We're talking today about nurturing, self-nurturing, self-compassion, self-restoration. And Monica, one of the strings to your bow is that you are a certified energy cycle mentor.
Yes.
What is the energy cycle? Why is this important and what do we need to be aware of with this?
So what's really important about it is, nature goes through its cycles and we all recognise the cycles of nature. There's a time where, like we're in the summer at the moment, things are blossoming, it's all vibrant and the energy is high. There's also a time come autumn where we're sort of reaping all that we've sown and it's starting to get a bit cold, but things are kind of going, the energy is falling. And then we go into deep winter where it's like nothing's happening. And then the spring happens and, the shoots come and the energy starts to rise again. What we don't recognise is that what happens in nature also happens with us on a cyclical basis. And particularly as women, when we're in the phase of our menstruation, we have a reminder each month that we're in a cycle. But men are also in their own cycle. We're all operating with energy that rises and falls and rises and falls. And when we work in tune with the cycles of our own energy, and our own energy patterns may not fit with other people in our house or in our environment, we have our own individual patterns. When we work with those, then we're able to be more effective in the world. So we're not trying to get loads of things done when our energy is low. Mm-hmm. We're able to recognise, actually, this is the time for me to be getting this done. Mm-hmm. So I've been trained in various modalities, which is why I talk about being an energy cycles mentor. The most recent that I've been working with is with Miranda Gray as a moon mother. So I received training and initiation as a moon mother specifically to work with women around their cycle and how you run through life from maiden to mother to enchantress to crone. So in the maiden phase, when we're young and dynamic, we're running around almost, full of the joys of life. And then the mother phase, when we're interested more in nurturing others, whether that be a physical child or our creative projects. And then in the enchantress phase, where we're actually kind of come into our deep creativity, our fierceness, our strength. And then the crone, where we really delve into our wisdom. So we do that over our whole life cycle, but we also run through that each month, whether we have a menstrual cycle or not.
That's really fascinating, isn't it?
Mm.
It is. And actually, I know that people will be able to see the fullness of what you do by visiting your website.
Yes.
Just tell us what that is right now at this moment.
Yeah, so my website is rebelrev.net. So that's Rebel, REBEL, Rev, REV.net.
Okay. And there you can connect with Monica and just, contact her to work with her on some of these important things that can help you to live harmoniously and in balance. Now, regarding your ministry, Monica, I know that your ministry is an integral part of your life.
Yes.
Can you explain, please, how prayer fits into healing?
Oh, that's a lovely question. So for me, our prayers to the Spirit or God of our understanding are a really important way of allowing our soul, our individual soul, to be deeply connected and to Spirit as a whole. And when we're in that space of deep connection, that is where we are whole, we are complete, we are well. Whether our physical body is degenerating or not, we can still have healing. So the point of me for healing isn't always that the disease we have goes away. The point of healing is that we are at peace about where we're at. And when we use prayer in order to be at peace, in order to be fully, deeply supported by the Spirit of or God of our understanding, then we are healed and whole.
Excellent. And I'm just going to ask you to comment on this, please. And what I am thinking right now and what I want to say and just have a discussion with you about is that not everyone is a Christian. Not everyone is connected to a faith or certainly to a faith that they may recognise as such.
Yeah.
So in terms of prayer, I used to, I'm also from a Caribbean family.
Yeah.
My mum would take me to a church when I was younger. And, we probably think of prayer as praying to God or a God. But for someone who's not affiliated with a faith, talk to me about how they might pray.
Yeah, so for me, the deepest, most simple prayer that we can say is thank you. Thank you to our body. Thank you to the air that we breathe. Thank you to the ground that we walk on. Thank you for our loved ones. Thank you for all of the experiences that I've had in my life and where they brought me to right now.
So very simple, but very profound.
Yeah.
Because we're giving gratitude for the simple things that actually enable us to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So we're going to move on now and talk about the nurturing journey.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me, I mean, if you want to share with the listeners what the nurturing journey is, your concept of this.
Okay.
And, the retreat space in Barbados.
Yeah. So for me, the nurturing journey is a way of living. So it's how we cope with the ups and downs of life, the trials that we have, the process of moving through life and all its transitions from before birth to beyond death. And the reason why I call the work that I do the nurturing journey is because it provides support to people through this journey of life. So it may be support through one-to-one transformational guidance. It may be support through inspiration for people to truly be who they are in the world, because your uniqueness is what the world needs. It may be coming on a retreat with me to do some intensive work where you may be going through a particular transition in your life. Maybe it's a divorce, or maybe you've gone through deep grief and you're wanting to restart life. It may be that you have lost a job and you're thinking, what do I do next? Whatever the transition is a spark. It's a place from which you can then start to grow again. So the nurturing journey is various practices, various experiences that clients come through with me that enable them to travel through whatever's happening in their life.
Fantastic. And I mean, some of those experiences you've mentioned can be very traumatic, not just physically, but emotionally.
Yeah.
And it's hard really to reconcile, how you're feeling, the emotions, and, to share that understanding with someone else. And you can be someone's personal support through, situations similar to those you've mentioned.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So like we said right at the beginning of the interview, Rebecca, it's the ability to deeply listen to somebody and where they're at. We have our friends, we have our family, but our friends and our family have their own preconceived ideas about who we are and what goes on within us that we may never have shared with them. Whereas if you work with myself or someone like yourself, Rebecca, to be deeply listened to and mirrored back what you're actually saying, then you can see what are the patterns that I have that are not nurturing my growth. What are the patterns that I have that I need to do more of? How can I really be who I truly am?
Right. That's a great question, isn't it?
Yeah.
17 hours.
How can I be who I truly am?
Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. Okay. So, I've never been to Barbados. I know I have to go one day.
Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. But, as a coach, I know that there are no shoulds, okay? But I just have to say I'm going to put a should in this question. Is
Go on.
Why should someone consider partaking in your nurturing journey in Barbados?
Okay. So in the space, Zion House, over the last 4 years, I've been setting up this energy so that people come from being in a space of uncertainty to a space where all of them is welcomed, the uncertainty and the wishes and the dreams. And we work in a really deep, intensive way to come to a place of clarity, to define the nurture plan of where and what your body, heart, mind and soul needs as a minimum. To identify those habits, those practices, those people, those activities that you have in your life that are moving you away from what your core needs are, and how you can change that.
Right.
So that's why, because when people come, they're deeply nourished and nurtured and supported, and learn how to do that for themselves, so that when they go back into their situation, they're able to make the decisions and choices that they need to make for the good of themselves and everyone around them.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I remember when I went off to Tanzania a few years ago, and, sitting by the sea and, doing my journaling and just feeling so much different and so, peaceful.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that we go away on holiday and we might feel that way, but we come back and we get back into the rat race, we just get back to the same old way of being. Now, the crucial thing about what you do when you take people away, by the sounds of it, is that you support them to be equipped with the tools that can be life-sustaining.
Absolutely.
Not just there, but when they return back to the UK or whichever country they've, come from.
Yes. So we purposely bring people back to their essential nature and to connect them to the nature around them. So we've always got reminders around us when we go out. We've got the sun shining on our heads or the rain coming down. We've got our feet walking on the earth. We are aware of our breath. All these things bring us back to who we are at a very, very tangible, practical level. And the work that we do is to work with those elements inside and outside of ourselves, so that we recognize that actually we're all deeply connected. And once you have that, once you've learned the process of reconnecting to your essential nature and the nature around you, then you never lose it.
True. And is this retreat once a year or every 6 months? How often is it?
So the way that I'm doing them now, Rebecca, is I'm working with people in one-to-ones. So what I used to do is small groups.
Okay.
And I sometimes still do small groups, but people have to bring their small group together. What I've been working now on is self-directed and personal one-to-one retreats with me. So people come and everything is shaped towards their personal transformation and growth.
All right. That's great. So they're immersed in it without distractions or feeling that there's any competition or anything like that.
Yes.
Just you and that. Yeah, that's superb.
And what you said about being away in terms of sitting by the sea and writing your journals, there's nothing better than bringing yourself into a beautiful environment and making that connection with, actually, when I get home, where are the beautiful things that actually I can connect with at home? So you do it from there, so that you know that when you get home, these are your go-to places that will remind you.
Right, I've got you. Great, okay. And I'm interested, and we've got many listeners to this this podcast, the Coaching Lounge. I mean, it's actually on iTunes and various other platforms, and it goes out to a wide mailing list. People will resonate with what you're talking about. Who's drawn to you? What sorts of people, clients do you attract?
Okay, so I tend to attract people who are in the midst of a transition, whether that be home or work, where they are really ready to move into their next phase, and maybe are feeling a little bit uncertain about it, but they're fired up. They want it. And they know that with some support, they can do it. But they need that level of support and some practical tools to carry them through, to understand what their own energy cycles are, to understand, actually, what do I really need in order to enable this to happen for me? And what I tend to also, the people that I tend to attract it can be individuals or couples, actually. Sometimes couples come to me who are or ready for a new phase of relationship. It's all about, I'm ready to be more me. I'm ready to express my fullness in the world. And maybe I've never done that before, but I am ready now.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. We're coming down to the last few minutes of the show, and just relating to what you've said, just touching on the last few sentences there. I went for a walk today. It's a lovely day. I went to Cannon Hill Park.
Nice.
I read part of a book by Sonia Shulkit. It's about being psychic, etc. And in one of the chapters that I read, she said, actually, we must ask for help.
Yeah.
And just hearing what you've said there, it's like we might sometimes know what to do. But the beauty of working with someone like yourself, with what you do, or, myself as a coach, is to have someone who is in that balance space where they can, without judgment, just, we can offload, with them and to them. We, as you say, be mirrored, and also to have that accountability and that support to go through the transitions, and I think it's a brave thing to do. And a great thing to do, to put your hand up and say, actually, I need some help here in my life.
Yeah.
Who's the right practitioner to help me?
Yeah.
And just listening to you, anyone who wants to really look deeply into themselves, holistically, and from what I'm sensing as well, emotionally, spiritually, to connect with themselves in that way, then you are absolutely the person to get in touch with, Monica.
Yeah, and this is why, for me, it's really important for the people who need me to know that I exist.
Yes. Well, we do have to.
Fine.
Yeah. I mean, the saying is, there's no point in having your gifts and not sharing them with the world.
Yeah.
In order to share, we have to declare, I'm here.
I'm here, absolutely. And for me, that's, I'm very grateful, Rebecca, for you having me on the show, because you are providing an opportunity for people to get to know me in a way that they wouldn't normally necessarily know me, because you've been asking some lovely questions.
Thank you. Yeah.
And for me, it's also about, I would really love people to explore what I'm doing. If people have a sense that they have a rebellious soul, a part of them that's saying, actually, there's something else about me that I haven't explored yet. There's something that keeps calling me to look at my life more deeply. There's something that keeps telling me that actually this doesn't sit right. On my website, on rebelrev.net, there's a really fun little quiz that asks, do you have a rebellious soul? And, there's no opt-in or anything. You just need to go through it and you'll find out whether I can really help you.
Right, okay. Fantastic. So there we go. A free tool that you can go and access after this show, and then follow through by giving Monica a call. Just before we take your contact details, Monica, just got a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favourite colour?
Ooh, my favourite colour is a hot pink.
Oh, hot pink. Is there a story behind that, the hot pink?
Well, it's actually, there's two, you see. It's a hot pink and a purple. The two of them just go together so well.
All right, okay. Now, what do you do to relax?
I usually lie down on the earth and allow my body to be supported by it.
Oh, lovely. And do you have a life motto? And if so, what is it?
Keep calm and begin again.
Wow, fantastic. Because we can always begin again. I love that. Yeah, okay. And what is the final statement you would like to share? But before that, just announce your contact details and then answer that question, please.
Okay, so my contact details are Monica at rebelrev.net. That's the email. Or you can contact me on my website, rebelrev.net. And you can also link with me on Twitter at rebelrevmonica.
Okay. Monica Douglas Clark is very easy to find, as you can hear. Just, search for Rebel Rev and she'll come up straight away. Monica, it's been an amazing pleasure to have you as my first post-sabbatical guest in the Coaching Lounge, so I'm deeply honoured. And what is the final statement you'd like to share with our listeners today?
My final statement would be, if all else is failing, come back to nurturing yourself. Come back to your body. Come back to your breath. Allow your heart, your mind, and your soul to be free.
That is so nourishing and therapeutic and calm. Monica Douglas Clark, Rebel Rev, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed this interview. We've gone over the time, but it was absolutely worth it. And let's connect again in a few months, and you can share with us some of the great, examples and stories of successes of people who've been on your journey since being on the show.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you for tuning into the Coaching Lounge. Join us next time for more insightful interviews with inspiring guests. You can hear previous shows on SoundCloud by searching for Satellite Life Coaching. We're always interested to hear your feedback and topic suggestions, so don't hesitate to email us on info@satellitelifecoaching.com.